What's up, everybody? It's Rob Campbell, the mortgage broker. I'm coming to you today to talk about lease to own or rent to own contracts. It has come to our attention this month that we were closing a purchase for a wonderful client of ours, and they had signed a purchase agreement to assume some of the rental components in the house. So I'm not talking about lease to own or rent to own as far as purchasing a home. I'm talking rent to own or lease to own as far as equipment in the home. So if you go out to the marketplace and try to replace a hot water tank or a water purifier or an air conditioner or a furnace or any component like that in the home, sometimes you're given the option to do a financing plan or a lease to own or a rent to own plan. It can be to your advantage to be able to do this on a small amount per month. However, the lease to own or rent to own agreements can be a little shady, to say the least. Why would they be shady? Because the amount that you're going to pay over the term, if there is an end term to this agreement or not, could actually surpass how much the equipment would actually cost. So I'll tell you about what happened to a client of ours this month. She was buying a home here locally, and in her purchase agreement it said that she was going to assume the rentals of the hot water rental, and I'm going to actually flash it up on the screen what those words were. But in the section right above the components that she was going to assume from the seller, it said that this was pertaining to rentals or rent to own or lease to own options in the home. So just a word of caution here: when you're buying a home, whether that's this month, next year, 10 years, just always remember that if you're going to assume a rental contract or a lease to own contract, something that's really important to know is if there's something registered on title. Usually with rent to own or lease to own components like a water softener or a furnace or an air conditioner, there's going to be a lien registered on the property, okay? And that lien is basically guaranteeing the company to get their money back for the component that they put in the house. So let's say I'm installing a furnace in your home, right? Your furnace dies and you need a new one put in, and that, the furnace and AC might cost $5,000 to $10,000. Well, you might not have $5,000 to $10,000 in your pocket to do that. So we offer you a payment plan, and you take the payment plan because it's really cheap per month, 20 or 50 bucks a month, whatever that's going to be. The lien that gets registered on your property is basically a guarantee that when I'm installing this equipment in your home, you're going to make good on the money that you owe me for that equipment. The reason is you could easily rip that equipment out of the house, sell the house privately without that equipment in the house, and never make a payment. And basically you got to sell your home and the equipment, and I, the installer, am out of that money. I mean, that sounds really hokey, but that's the securitization of me putting that component into your property. So obviously this is an example. I'm a mortgage broker. I don't install furnaces or air conditioning. But what's really interesting is we got a call about a week to closing from the lawyer that's representing our buyer, and the lawyer was asking if we had pulled title. Now, our mortgage brokerage does not pull title on purchases. We pull title on refinances or switches because we want to know what's on title as well. If anything has to take a postponement or stay in second or third position behind the mortgage, whatever. But so we don't normally pull. Now, in 10 years, I've been doing this for 10 years. I've never had this come up where there was a lien registered on the property for $30,000 and the equipment wasn't actually in the house. So the poor homeowner, the poor lady that lived in this home, she was older, she got taken advantage of. And it was all done over the phone, and she agreed to the terms and conditions over the phone, and they went ahead and registered this, basically this scam on title for her property, and she didn't know. She didn't know that she had $30,000 worth of a registration on there that was somehow tied to this lease to own. Now, the silver lining here is that our buyers, with my realtor partner, was able to not have to pay that. But in the contract, it said assuming a rental lease to own option or rent to own equipment and contracts, it can be devastating. So I guess the pro tip here is, if you're going to buy a property, first off, starting now, in first time in 10 years, starting now, every purchase that we do here at our brokerage, we're going to pull title on the property that's being purchased. And we're going to do that because we want to make sure that there's no curveballs for you, the buyer, and for our realtor partners, because we want to make sure that there's no last minute stress and chaos that ensues. Second of all, if you do own a home and something goes in the house that you want to do a lease to own or a rent to own like payment plan, you have to be very, very careful about those terms and conditions. You need to ask for those terms and conditions up front before they install the stuff, before you agree to anything. You need to read them and read them thoroughly. If you don't understand what you're reading, have somebody read it for you. Your real estate lawyer could probably charge you by the hour. Yeah, that sounds like it's going to be a lot of money, but literally $30,000, guys, for this registration of this scam on this poor lady's home. So it might be worth paying $100 for a real estate lawyer to read through that contract for you and give you an idea. So anyway, some of these companies have their terms and conditions online. You might be able to find them online. I was surprised. We have a hot water tank rental with a company by the name of Reliance, and they actually have these water heater terms and conditions on their website. So I'll link it up as an example. Again, this is nothing against Reliance, but the terms and conditions are actually on their website, which is weird because normally companies don't publish that stuff. But I've been taken advantage of in the past on purchases that we've made in the past before I got into this business. Water softener, lease to own agreements, multiple thousands of dollars. You can go to the Home Depot and buy a water softener for like $800. It cost us a lot more than $800 to break that contract. So just a kind of a word to the wise, just be careful when you're signing rent to own or lease to own options for furnaces, air conditioners, hot water heaters, water softeners, air purifiers, you name it. If there's any sort of agreement that you've got to sign, you got to be really, really careful with what you're signing, because with your signature or even over the phone, verbal consent to agree to terms and conditions, they can easily register a lien on your property for an amount that you might not even know. And you can't get rid of that unless you pay it out. So be careful out there. It's a jungle. And just be careful with lease to own and rent to own options for all of that equipment that I mentioned. If you have any questions or experiences, if you've actually experienced getting taken advantage of through these lease to own or rent to own agreements, put your comments below. I'd really love to hear what that looked like and how much maybe it cost you. And if you found this valuable, please share it. Make sure you like the video, and feel free to subscribe to the channel. We try to pump out really good quality. You'll see some of my previous videos about home equity lines of credit or mortgage renewal. So we're trying to pump out really good content here. If you subscribe, you'll get notified when we post new videos. So just hit that bell and smash that like button. Guys, thanks for watching. Just be careful with lease to own and rent to own options, especially when you're buying a home, because you could be assuming somebody else's headache. All right, take care, guys.